So welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and this is kind of like a part 2 to yesterday. Got the coffee, guys. And today's Sunday, the 24th. Christmas is tomorrow, guys. So I thought today we'd kind of finish up what I was talking about yesterday, and that is, being the first with the most, right? And when you do that, you are going to get copycats, all right? That's the least of your worries. I mean, you can dwell on it, but it is what it is. If you're doing what I suggest that you do, and anything that you do, is you compete with yourself to get better every day, better than yesterday. And if you need to learn something, learn it. Read up on it, what have you. Find out all the information you can to become better at it. Now, I told you that we started out, the first year of doing around 200,000 online. And at that time, we were with our local distributors. You had the manufacturer, and then you had the big distributors, and then you had the smaller distributors, and then you had even smaller than that, all right? Because the manufacturers first looked at regional. They wanted like 2 or 3 locations throughout the state that could supply their parts to the other distributors that were more localized to state-wise. And then you had distributors coming on from that down to more localized in parts of the state. And the deal that they made years ago, and everybody kind of clung to it, was territory. Each distributor had a territory, okay, guaranteed that nobody else would sell into their territory. I didn't know that. I'm all about free market, right? So that was one of our first challenges, is they pushed us on to a local distributor that didn't carry much, that had a lot of back orders. And they were basically ordering it when we ordered it. And they were waiting till the end of the week to put their order in to offset freight costs to their location, right? All fine and good, but now I'm waiting 2 weeks for those parts. And my customer is waiting 2 weeks for those parts. Unacceptable. That's why we started warehousing, to a certain extent. And the other issue that I saw with that, with territories, is they didn't feel the need to improve. They were guaranteed, if anybody in this section of northern New York wanted MTD, Hydrogear, Briggs, you were kind of stuck. All right. So that was one of the first challenges we ran into, was into our second year on a $400,000, run. I went to the secondary distributor, not the top one, the secondary. And I said, look, he's buying, this distributor that we're dealing with, territory shape, is buying from you. And you've seen an uptick in his sales because of us. And I can't keep continually waiting, to finally get the part when it's coming from you. And can we do something about that? And the guy said, well, let me talk to the guys above me. So he got back to me. He was a sales rep for that bigger distributor. And he said, they told me go ahead. Just, keep it kind of quiet. So they set me up an account with them. I stopped ordering from my local distributor because they couldn't keep up. And it streamlined it so much better. All right, we were getting the parts a lot faster. And with that distributor, the secondary one, pretty much found out that the bulk of our old distributor revenue was coming from us. And now they didn't lose that revenue. They've gained it, and they're getting better revenue by dealing directly with me. So that was a positive. But I mean, in business, I don't care. If you look at somebody and they're doing well, I guarantee you that they faced a lot of challenges and are still facing challenges as they go. Nothing is easy. If people think, oh, they got it easy, there's nothing easy in life. I hear so many people say, well, I want to get to this level, I want to do this, I want to do that. But they don't want to put the time in. They just want to step in and become, successful. And that's not how it happens, guys. If you want to be a good trumpet player, you don't just pick up the trumpet and start blowing on it and think that you're going to make any kind of tune. And a lot of times, I can remember grabbing a trumpet for the first time, and I am not a trumpet player, okay? And I couldn't even get it to make a noise. All it was just a lot of air. But they were saying, oh, you have to pucker your lips a certain way. That was my last of my dealings with trumpets. But if you want to become a good trumpet player, if you want to become successful at it, you have to put the time in. You have to practice. You have to listen to people that already know how to use the trumpet. Take their words and advice and keep trying to get better every day. That's how business is. Now, have you seen stories where guys, gals, what have you, have, got rich quick on something that's took off? And yeah, but those are few and far between, guys. If you want to be successful over the long haul, then you want to build each year, right? And that's how a lot of your bigger businesses, when they first start out, let's say McDonald's, Burger King, Walmart, Dollar Store, what have you, that every year they try to grow more, add more stores, add more restaurants, more franchisees out further from their main location. And they're taking the ones that were the first ones that started, taking the profit from them and putting it in the next group. So they know for the first couple of years, if they put a McDonald's in this one area, it's going to take a while. But what McDonald's did was it said, okay, we're going to have franchisees. And what is a franchise? A franchise is simply you sign a contract with McDonald's, and McDonald's tells you how the building is going to be built. Actually, they do build the buildings. You're going to buy all your inventory from them, their French fries, their shakes, stuff, soda, French fries, what have you. You're buying it all from them, okay? And then you're going to do it the exact same way that every other McDonald's in that state does it, and in the U.S. does it. That's how you can take somebody's business and make it become successful without doing a lot of work, is by going through franchisees. But that doesn't come without any challenges, right? Because now you have employees trying to get people to cover shifts, who's doing snow removal in the parking lot and sanding and salting and making sure it's not slippery. Each person when you're in business are going to come up against challenges, roadblocks, what have you, and you have to be able to work around them. You have to figure out a way around that roadblock. That's the difference between successful and not, because a lot of people get to that roadblock and they give up. They say, well, I can't do it. It's too much. I've tried everything. No, you haven't. Because I guarantee you there's a way around that, but you just have to work at it. And that was with the distributors. Well, I did a workaround my local distributor because they just didn't have enough. I mean, it was a family-owned business and, yada, yada, yada. They've been in business for years. And they got lucky with getting the distributorship for our area. The only problem was they weren't a stocking. They should have been a warehouse with a lot of parts in it. If you're going to be a distributor, okay? But they weren't. They were lazy. The old man that had run the business for years, had built it up, and then once he passed away, pretty much all the common sense and, how do I put it? He was what made that successful, okay? I heard back in his day that everything, you could get it within a day or two. So sometimes, even though a business is very successful, if you lose the leader and you haven't taught the people below you, sons and daughters or what have you, of the leadership qualities that you need to know, then a lot of times those businesses fail. And the other thing that any of you bigger companies that are watching this video, be careful on territories. Because you give somebody a territory and tell them that nobody else can sell within that territory, you're going to make them lazy. They don't have to work because you secured that area saying that's yours and nobody else's. You want that person selling as many items as they can. Right? And I don't believe in anything being guaranteed, So we did a workaround. And I went to the second level distributor. And things got a lot better. And as I had said yesterday, that the brands took notice. They knew there was a big uptick, and they were watching. And I can remember, like, certain things, like hydro gears. We were selling, and if you're not sure what a hydro gear is simply, it's the drive motor that goes on the back of a lot of your zero turns, your commercial mowers and stuff. You walk behind commercials, that have. But when it comes to the hydro gears, the way it's set up is, it depends on the models and stuff, but you have a reservoir up here, and you have the hydro gear, which are actually pumps. And from there, they go down to the drive motors, which are, a lot of them are Parkers. So you have a drive motor down here that's hydraulically run, and then you got a pump. Now, some of them had one pump to both drive motors and with one reservoir. Some of them had two reservoirs, and each reservoir was going to each pump, then from each pump to that Parker wheel motor. So a lot of times, if the pump failed, the drive motor, the Parker, would also become bad because of the contaminants that were in there. And if you had just the one reservoir, then it nixed all of them, okay? That have hydrostatic transmissions and so forth. And some have a reservoir where you add the oil that feeds them both, and others are independent. Most of the ones that we sold were independent because I can remember, we had a spiel every time we would talk to somebody that wanted to order a hydrogear motor is you need to do a complete flush. And if your other motor is using the same reservoir as that motor is, good chances are you just took all your filings and it went over into this one as well. So most often the case with those mowers, those hydrogear, is they would end up getting damaged. So we would always recommend to our customer go with two, unless it had its own reservoir. If it had its own reservoir, okay. But we knew the spiel on what you needed to do, and we could talk to the customer over the phone on what needed to be done, how to flush the system, how to install, and so forth. Because we also had to be, because selling is one thing, but you also have to be the person that can talk to customers and tell them how it works, And what we did with a lot of our customers throughout the states, and some were overseas, was we were their tech guys. And they would call, and usually it was me or I would get Claude on with me, but we would talk them through what they were trying to get done. So not only are you in sales, but you're also the tech guys, the guys that help you diagnose what's going on with your machine over the phone. We had a lot of dealers call us, with questions. And if I didn't know the answer, I'd quickly jot down their phone number, find out the answer, and call them back, If that meant calling, if it was an issue with a hydrogear, if that meant calling hydrogear, the tech, and talking with them about it, and then getting back to that customer, I'd do it. That's what I spent most of the day doing, honestly. But that was where we first started getting into trouble. That was the first challenge, was to increase the speed. So we got bumped up to the second distributor, which worked out good. But this is where your competition is watching you. And that first distributor, the local distributor for that territory that we were in, got wind that we were selling hydrogears online. And when I say selling hydrogears, I mean they were low end 300 and something, high end 1600, and we were selling at least 600 of them a year. We developed a relationship with a lot of the landscaping companies to keep them, going. And a lot of them used to inventory. They would inventory and have motors on hand because they were fearful that if it would be too long of a wait, that machine would be down too far, too long. And what they found with us is if they called me or Krista or whoever and said, I need a hydrogear, this is the part number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how soon can I have it? So I can overnight it to you if you want. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but I'll overnight it to you. So we became a solution of having a lot of parts on their shelves, so it freed up that money to be used somewhere else. But we had this little territory group. Wasn't happy, that little distributor. They weren't happy because they started to see their sales start plummeting after we went to their distributor, right? They were seeing increases in their sales, and they were seeing increases in their orders to the distributor, but it's because of us. Once I did a workaround them, their sales went back to what it was before, except a lot of the dealers in my area started coming to us instead of going to that distributor. So not only did they lose us, but they lost a lot of, repair shops in the area that were forced to deal with them now could deal with us. And we were acting as a localized distributor, right? And I already told you, make friends and work with the other, competition of the area, the other repair shops, if that's what you're into. Let them know that you're there to help them. And by doing so and helping them out, they'll help you out, right? So that smaller distributor, ended up losing more than just us. And they started getting less and less in sales. So they started with Hydro Gear. Because they were supposed to be the Hydro Gear distributor for our area, all right? And I was going through the second tier distributor, and they had, not only did they let me have their warehouse, but they let me have access to 5 of their warehouses throughout the U.S., all right? So now it's getting better, right? So now I've worked around the first territory distributor, gone to the second one, and then the second one, they pretty much gave us the option. Do you want to go up to the next distributor? And I can't remember if the bigger distributor approached me or I approached them. But either way, they created an account for us. And they had 5 massive warehouses throughout the States. And whether I was selling the Hydro Gear motor, parts, what have you. And like the Hydro Gears, a lot of times I would drop ship those. I carry the most common ones right at the shop. But for the most part, we were shipping direct to our customers. And they would do a blind ship. And a blind ship is, they would actually take our business, or the New York parts, and put it as the sender. And then our customer, where it was going, okay? They were super, all right? Well, the local one went to Hydro Gear, which the bigger distributors handle Hydro Gear, but I'm trying to figure out how to word it. That the smallest distributor in our area that had a Hydro Gear contract stated that, they owned that territory. If there was someone in that territory that needed a Hydro Gear, that we were forced to have to go through them. So they made a big whoop-de-doo. All right? And the bigger distributor said, we don't know what to do, Eric. We're caught between a rock and a hard place. You're buying a lot of Hydro Gears. Well, Hydro Gear is saying they have a signed contract from your local distributor, and you have to buy through them for your Hydro Gears. Again, what did I just say about them? They weren't stocking. They had stupid shipping prices. They were 2 weeks out. That was unacceptable. So I had to make a decision at that point when it came to them. Was I called Hydro Gear. I said, look, you can look at the upper distributor and see how many units of your product we're buying and selling. It's not rocket science. Ask them. So I'm giving you an option. You either allow me to continue with what I have in place now, or we're done selling your product. And we went through this back and forth. Oh, we want you to sell our product. Bullshit. That little ass distributor had Hydrogear by the balls with that contract. And you know what it cost Hydrogear? You don't even want to know. Hundreds of thousands of dollars when I said, F you. And we dropped Hydrogear. A lot of my customers, were upset because I had done that. But I told them, I said, you guys can't wait 2 weeks for... And I'm not going to ruin our reputation over a shitty-ass dispute. Is the answer. And a few times, Hydrogear come back to us and said, we see you're not buying our product and you're not selling it. We checked your website and it's not even available. I said, no, it's still on the table. Either you let me buy it through where I was, let me buy it through you, but I will not buy from the local distributor. End of story. And that's why I say that no matter what business you're in, you're going to face challenges. And it's how you deal with your challenges of, a lot of people look at them as being problems or snafus or this or that. The biggest thing that you have to do if you want to become successful is figure out how to make it a challenge, okay? And then how do you overcome that challenge? And you start looking at other ways. Now with Hydrogear, we had hit a dead end because I gave them the option, one or the other. And they were so worried about getting sued by this small distributor that they had to back away, all right? And this little piddly-ass distributor wasn't done. They were trying to do the same thing with OEM MTD, Briggs parts, you name it. They were starting to raise a stink, okay? The only thing is that in their contracts with the major brands, other than Hydrogear, none of them had any stipulation that, I couldn't go elsewhere to get that part. And that's how I was able to grow the business, was as I went up the chain. And in order to go up the chain, you have to show sales, right? Volume. They want to see you selling a lot. If you're not selling a lot, they're not going to talk to you. And when I say buying a lot, we were buying more from most of these upper level distributors than what our local distributor was buying every month. So you just have to look at things and persevere and work through them. And if you are starting to get frustrated with trying to figure something out, take a break from it. Sometimes the best thing you can do, is instead of hitting your head on the wall continually trying to figure out something, go do something else. And I guarantee you, in your subconscious, you're still thinking, right? You're still wondering this, wondering that. But a lot of times for me, it would come not while I was trying to figure out the answer. It was when I was doing something else and it just kind of clicked and said, wait a minute, we haven't tried this, But I replicated what I was doing with each brand, okay? Now, I started with some of the aftermarket companies. Because some of the aftermarket companies out there, were sometimes selling at half the cost. And at the time I was concerned about quality, but I was also concerned about cost. And as I rose and I was doing more volume, they give me a volume discount for the year versus, you know, what I have been paying down here at this lower distributor. So I could get the parts cheaper and do a better markup on them and get them out. Well, the same thing came with the aftermarket companies. We started actually with the aftermarket companies in the repair shop, all right, and trying some of their products out. And I was impressed with the quality, that they held up good. And there was for Stens, they had territories for salespeople. And originally, this piddly ass territory business also had Stens, all right? The aftermarket company that they were selling. And they tried raising a stink over that. The good thing is there was no signed contracts, no stipulations that we will only sell to you. They didn't want to sell to a lot of the smaller shops that were doing a couple $100 a year or even a couple $1,000 a year. They were looking more at volume buyers. And I can remember that sales rep. I got to know him and his family. Great people. But I told him, I said, this is what I'm up to. And this is what I need. Can you provide that? And he said, well, you're going to have to prove it to my bosses, that you're worthwhile. So I'm willing to take a chance on you. And so what we ended up with them was, in the beginning, it was the warehouse that supplied our part of, New York. And the sales rep could only order from that warehouse to get it to me or to drop ship it to my company. And what I ended up doing with them, because they were carrying hydro gear. See, there's always a workaround, right? I got a username and a password to sign on, and I started looking, and voila, they're carrying Parker wheel motors, they're carrying hydro gears, they're a little bit more than what I was paying at the upper distributor, but I still have access. So what did I do? I got on the phone with my landscape guys and said, look, we may be back into the business. If you need something, give me a shout. And let me see what I can do. And at the time, Stens wasn't doing drop shipping unless you were a dealer. It came to you. You put an order in and it came to you, and then you were technically supposed to use it and repairing something that you had. But I was upfront and honest with the sales rep saying, this is what I'm doing. And I can make us both some money. Because I'll tell you, if you have a sales rep for a company and they start to see that rep getting a lot of sales, that's a good thing. And I can remember at one point in time, because we were doing it on a daily, I put an order in, pay for it, put an order in, pay for it. And every time I put an order in, pay for it, I get charged from the bank, service fees and stuff like that. So the sales rep said, why don't you set up a credit account with us? It's okay. within the first 5 days, I get a call from the credit department saying, you're almost to your max credit here. You're going to have to make a payment. I said, I'd like to get up to 30 days, but I'll pay it today. No big deal. If I got to pay it twice a month, I'll pay it twice a month. And that went on for a couple months. And then the head sales department guy or credit department guy come back and said, you've been green lighted. That means as long as you pay for it at the end of each day or end of each month, we're okay. And I can tell you, there were umpteen times where I was making checks for $39,000 to $45,000 for the month for that company. And we got the hydro gear back, so I overcame that challenge, but it wasn't that I was looking at that point in time. I was doing something else, which was setting up an account with a different company. That the answer came to me while doing it and looking at their catalogs and looking, there's our hydro gears. And these guys even have Parkers. So as my relationship with the sales guy continued to blossom, and he was looking really good for the amount of sales he was getting from us. But I'll tell you, that man busted his balls, doing whatever he could to help us. That's one thing I will say, is that when I had him in our corner, between the two of us, we'd figure out a way. And he got permission to use all the STEM warehouses throughout the U.S. to allow me to drop ship from each one. So if my customer was in Texas, if there was a STEM close to Texas, if he ordered a hydro gear, I could ship it to him, and sometimes he'd get it the next day, because I could do it from the closest warehouse, right? And if they didn't have something in the warehouse that was local to us that I needed, then they allowed me to look at all the other warehouses to see if they had it, and then have them ship it from that warehouse to me versus my local warehouse. And that worked great, and the falling out with them, and this is what I'm going to tell all you guys that are trying to get into this business, is you need to make good relationships with the people that can help you succeed at whatever you want. And this guy was one of the best relationships I had. And actually, when he got a promotion, and I'm all about, if you get a way to promote yourself, do it. They'd have him talk at the meetings that they would have, like a couple times a year, of how he was shining, and he was doing, $600,000 with just one customer a year. That they offered him a higher position. But what happened when they hired him for that higher position? I lost him as a partner in trying to facilitate what I was trying to do. And the new sales person wasn't ambitious, didn't know a lot, didn't know how to do things, didn't know how to do workarounds, and, ended up really putting the kibosh to us. So what we ended up doing was we dropped the amount of orders that we were doing and how much we were buying from that company, because I didn't have that person in place. I asked numerous times, even though he was in the upper position, could I deal directly with him for what was going on with me? And they said no, that he's now the upper regional manager instead of being the sales rep for our area. So it is, you have to have key people that want to succeed, want you to succeed and have it be a win-win. And the one that they put in place of him was not ambitious, was not knowledgeable, and when I would ask a question, they wouldn't know the answer, and they never got back to me with an answer. But I'm going to end it here, because I want you less concerned about our rise and our issues, and more so on anything in life is going to come with challenges, all right? No matter what you do, if you want to become successful at something, you got to put the time in and the energy and be doing it in the right way. Because I've seen guys put a lot of time and energy into something, but they're going in the wrong direction because they haven't identified what they want to accomplish, what their goal is to focus on, and had short-term goals in place to keep them straight. You know, they're just working 16, 18-hour days and not getting ahead because they're putting all that time and energy into something that you shouldn't be if you want to accomplish a goal. Everybody is equal when it comes to this. If you choose to want to be successful at something, or you want to learn something, there's steps. Find out what it is you want. Find out along the way, have some short-term goals on how to achieve it. Adjust every time you hit one of your short-term goals. Adjust it if need be. Understand that you're going to have challenges, and you need to try to figure out how to overcome those challenges. And sometimes when you're facing a challenge and you start getting frustrated, I want you to step away from it. Go do something else. Because you're still going to be thinking about it back here. And a lot of times, for me anyways, the answer came from me walking away from it for a while, then sitting there and forcing myself to keep trying to figure it out. So on that note, you guys have a great Sunday. And like I say, the moral of the story is you can accomplish anything you want. You're going to have challenges along the way, and find ways around it. Easy peasy, right? All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.